Welcome back to Dubsy Bricks for the first episode of building the Tantive in Lego. And it's taking a little bit longer than I was hoping to get this build series started, but we're here at long last. And I can't wait to actually get started on the building side of this. First of all, though, I need to work out how large this build is going to be. Now, as you can see, we've got a fair few figures out ready for this build series. I have got a few more of the Fleet Troopers somewhere, just need to find them out, as well as U3PO, and I have got some more Stormtroopers somewhere as well, so they will be added to the collection further down the line. And I have got my Rebel friend here as well. I have ordered the dual moulded legs for all of the Fleet Troopers here, so I will be changing those out, as I do think it looks a lot better having them with the black boots on, as you see in the Star Wars films. At the back there, we've got Bail Organa. He obviously won't be in the main part of the build, as this is going to be based off of A New Hope, but I probably will do an Easter egg with him and a couple of other characters in other parts of the ship somewhere. Now, when I mentioned that when I did my announcement video for the Tantive, I did say that this section here was going to determine how big the overall build was going to be. And I was using this Lego set here, which is the board in the Tantive set number 75387, and I was going to modify this, and then that was going to be fitting inside of there. So once I've put the circular walls around the corridor, I would know how big that is. Once I knew how big that was, it would determine the length of the rest of the ship. Now, since then, I've been looking at some images online of the Tantive, especially the interior, and the scene where you have Princess Leia giving R2-D2 the plans to the Death Star, that has to be in there. So I'd need to put that corridor in, and that'll be down the bottom here somewhere. And I also want it so you've got the escape pods so that they can be removed from the ship. And I've got this set here, and I've got a few of these. So I could use those potentially in there, and then that would also help me to determine how big each section needs to be. But across the escape pods side of things a little bit later on. Now, what I'm going to be doing first of all is mapping out what interior I want to have in there. This is a big ship, and it's got a very heavy rear end to it. There's a lot of weight on the back compared with the rest of the ship, so I need to make sure it's structurally sound, but I want to also obviously include as much detail as possible on the inside of it. So the first thing to do is work out what floors I want to have in there, what rooms I want to have in there. Then once I've done that, then I can start determining how big the actual vehicle is going to be. So rather than working out on this, I think I'm going to work out on the interior design of it. So I'm going to almost chop it in half and then look down that way, map it out that way, and then that's going to determine the size of the craft. Originally, I thought the ship was going to be about just under 2.5 meters long. However, I've got a feeling it's probably going to be closer to 3 meters. And getting the scale of this is going to be very difficult and very important as well. When you look at the MIDI scale version of the Tantive, which I know a lot of people are not a massive fan of, it doesn't look quite right to me scale-wise. This section here is smaller than this section just here. However, if you look on this build here, it's the same size on there. So the cockpit looks a lot bulkier, a lot larger on here. This one to me looks way too small for the vessel. So yeah, we need to just pick one set of blueprints and then measure it from there and stick to that. And the ones that I showed in the announcement video, they're the ones I will actually be using, as I do feel it looks, to me, very proportionally right to what you see on the big screen. So first of all, let's start looking at the interior and how big it needs to be. And here is our first attempt at the corridor, and it's using the same techniques as you see in the Lego set. However, obviously I've just done it on both sides there, and I've gone for a corridor which is 12 studs wide, and not sure if that's too much or whether or not it's just right, so I just need to have a think about that. I could remove this row of 2x plates out of the centre, squeeze it all together, and it'll be a very quick job, and then I can have a look and see how good it looks at 10 studs. So I will experiment with that, but at the moment I am quite liking the look of the 12 stud wide corridor. Now, in regards to the lengths of the corridors, they're not going to be anywhere near like you see in A New Hope, which is obviously what this build is based off of. And the reason being is, if I was to build a minifig scale version of the Tantive, it'd be 3 or 4 times at least bigger than what I'm building, and I just haven't got the room or the resources to do that, so I am having to scale this down a little bit. Now, in regards to the circle bit that will be going around the corridor, I've come up with this so far, and this is the same technique as I used on my Jabba's Palace mock. It's a good way of getting a circle. Obviously you do have the little gaps in between, but there's no getting away from that. I could try using some curved slopes and normal slopes, and I might experiment with that, but due to the circumference of this, I think this is probably going to give the best overall look of a circular shoot around the boarding part of the ship. But now I know that this is potentially the size of that docking bay. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go over to the source material which I've got here and start looking at sections such as this here, how big that's going to be. Will that fit below the corridor and still fit in scale with what I'm doing at the moment? If I look at this image here, which is from the actual film, it does look a lot narrower than what's in the Lego game. So obviously I'm basing mine off of the film, so I would be looking at doing it more like that. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a little play with design for this, and I'll probably make a very thin version of it, do a thin version of the corridor as well, and then lie them flat down, so it's almost like a cut section looking down the length of the ship of the interior, and just see how it's looking size wise. So anyway, let's start doing that part, and I'll check back in once I've done so. And the fun has begun already with the sizing of the build, trying to scale this all down. And these are the lines as the majority of it are seen in the A New Hope on the bottom of the Tantive. And here's an image of the Skywalker saga, and as you can see, there are a lot more bricks involved in there. So this is even taller if it was in the Skywalker saga game, as opposed to how I've built it here. Now, if you look at C-3PO here compared to it, he's so short. I mean, his head is level with that first cheese wedge there. Whereas if you look on this image here on the screen, that's more like his knee or his hip. So yeah, it's considerably out of proportion to this. So I do need to try and scale it down. And on the left-hand side is what I've tried to do here. And it's using a lot of tiles. There's a lot of inverted pieces here. So it is just resting in place. So I'm going to need to find a way of attaching all of those, possibly by using some brackets on the end here, and that's going to clip it all together. I'm not sure, but we'll worry about that further down the line. There will be a way of connecting all together, but ideally I would like to go for more along this size, if not a little bit smaller, as opposed to this one on the right. The one on the right, to me, it just doesn't look right. I could lose this plate here as well. That's going to bring it and shrink it that a little bit more, and I think every plate that I can shrink it, the better. This one just here, unfortunately, I can't shrink that anymore, as I need something to attach each of those cheese wedges to. If they did an inverted cheese wedge, it would be a lot easier. I could possibly put a half Technic pin in and connect that cheese wedge to that brick there, and then have a inverted slope there, and then that could sort that problem out. But I wouldn't be able to do the same down there. So there is a way there, but I think if I put a Technic in it doesn't clip it together as tightly together. And there will be a slight line around it. So I'd sooner not have that if I can help it. But yeah, at least I know now that we can shrink it down one way or another. So what I'm going to try and do is map out the plan of how the floor is going to be using this side here. it's a lot easier for me to make something smaller in the space as opposed to bigger. So yeah, let's start doing that and see how it comes out. I knew this was going to be a technical challenge, this build, and it is already proving to be a tough one. And it is just getting the size and scaling correct, which is what's causing all of the problems. So either side here, we've got the two corridors, which will be leading to the escape pods. So the escape pods, they will be sitting inside the slope bits just there. They're going to be a little bit bigger than this, but it should all fit nicely together. This corridor here, that is in the center going throughout the spine of the spaceship. So you got the two docking bays, they'll come along and they go along at a 45-degree angle, and they're both join onto this center corridor here. Now, the problem I've measured everything out, and we've got some really big problems with the size of this. Going by this size here, I was going to wrap this around there, which is 24 studs wide. Now, if I grab the plans that I've got just here, this section here on this picture is only 12 millimeters. So 12 millimeters equals 24 studs. If I measure that across there, it's 27 millimeters. So that means it will be 54 studs wide. Now this is 30 odd stud wide by itself. So there's no way I can have one going along, going this way, and then replicate on the other side. And if I was to do it using this size corridor, the actual width of it would be 96 studs wide. And that would mean that the vehicle would be over 4 meters long. So there's no way that I'm going to be building a 4 meter long Tantive. If I was to try and do it, which as much as I would love to, it would cost so much to build and it would take me so long. I'll probably be still building in about 4 years time. So it's just not feasible. It's not going to happen. So I now need to work out ways of reducing the size of this. And I think the best way to start is remove that center panel in the middle of the corridor there. As I said earlier, it's at 12 studs, and I was going to remove it and see how it would look. I think that's the first thing to do. And then I'm going to have to shrink this corridor as well. And I may have to do it by possibly 6 studs, maybe 4. By reducing the width of it, the diagonal corridor won't need to be as long. So that's all going to help. And I think we can get it down a fair bit. So what I'm going to start off by doing is reducing the size of this. I'll then replicate just a base plate, or sorry, some plates the other side, just to give me an idea of the actual size of it along with the corridors, and then we'll calculate how long that's going to make the ship. I know in A New Hope this is quite a long corridor when you first see the stormtroopers invading the Tantive, but as I said earlier, something's got to give. This isn't minifig scale. I still want to make this look the best I possibly can. But this is one compromise that I'm going to have to make, is on this particular corridor here. So yeah, let's make those changes and then I'll check back in and show you what it looks like. And that's the corridor all shrunk down in size. And this is now the same size or length as the hallway set, the boarding of the Tantive IV. Now, it's not as long as I'd ideally have liked it to have been. The width-wise, I'm quite happy with it actually being the 10 studs at its widest point on the floor there. I think it does look absolutely fine. And by having this like here, the corridor will come around at a 45-degree angle here. There'll be another one that will join that side. This will just be a mirror image of that. And then I can have a center corridor down the middle of the spine of the ship. Now the width from, once I've done all the decorative part on the outside of here, from one side to the other is going to come out at, I think it works out about 76 studs. So by the calculations I've worked out, again, using this diagram here, the entire vehicle is now going to be 400 studs in length, which is about 8.32 of the grey base plates. That's going to mean it's 3.16 meters long. Now, originally I was aiming for 2.5 meters. So obviously we've now jumped over that by 66 centimeters, well, over 2 foot. So yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger, but at least I think it's the right way to go. I don't want to shrink this anymore, and I don't really want to compromise too much else inside here. it is what it is. I knew this was going to be a big build when I first decided I wanted to make it, and I want to do the build justice. So yeah, we're now going to be building a 3 meter long or 3.16 meter long Tantive 4 build. But yeah, first of many challenges I'm sure has come up. I think what I'm going to be doing next week starting next week, is mapping out the corridors. I think it'd be nice to get the plates all in place, ready, just so I know how it's going to be going about. Once I've done that, I can then start working out the framework on here. But what I do want to do is take this drawing and calculate exactly how many studs every section is going to be. So from this point here, for example, to here, and from here to here, from there to there, all of these sections, I want to work it out so that when it comes to building it, I know exactly where I'm going with it. So once again, the plan is we're going to have a corridor coming in here, going to go that way, then straight down the centre, and the same on this side. In the centre, it's either going to be the scene with Antilles being strangled by Vader, or a conference room, and another corridor that goes all the way to the cockpit. So the minifigures can get from one end of the ship to the other, no problems at all. Yeah, this is already proving to be such fun. Now, with this build series, as I mentioned again in the announcement video, this is a passion project. So this is something that I'm doing in my spare time, as and when I can, and when I want to break from building Gotham. It's a good chance for me to build with this, have a change of scenery, but I really want to take my time and do the best job possible with this. So it is going to be monthly updates, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting the video out on the 1st of each month going forward. It won't be one coming out on the 1st of November, it's too soon, so it's going to be the 1st of December, then after that it'll be 1st of January, 1st of February, and so on. So yeah, make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the future content in regards to the Tantive or Gotham City. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed this update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive or building Gotham City, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for walking by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.